Hey guys, it's Miss Savannah. So we are on our last week of review for the EOGs. So we really need to be working hard this week. And I think it's a good idea that you guys look over those sample questions from the Release EOG. That document is at the beginning of your Nearpod slides. So this week we are talking about fractions and all the operations of fractions. So I'm going to make a little chart here for you guys to see. So fractions. It's important to remember what you do with each operation. It's also important to look at the problem and figure out which operation you're going to use. Are you going to add, subtract, multiply, or divide? That's the biggest thing. And also double checking to see if it is a two-step problem, because on some problems you might need to add and then subtract. So for adding fractions, we need to find common denominators. So that's really important for adding and subtracting fractions, is common denominators. We cannot do something like this. We cannot have 1/3 plus 1/5, add the ones and get 2, add the bottom and get 8. That is not correct. This is not how we do it. We have to list our multiples, find the lowest number that those denominators have in common, and convert those to have common denominators, and then you add the numerators and get your answer. And double check if it can be simplified. So for subtracting fractions, it's the same thing. Common denominators. I want to add a little quick note on both of these. So with adding mixed numbers, you add the whole number first. So for mixed numbers, you add the whole number and then the fraction. I know that's kind of hard to read. So for subtracting fractions, you want to find common denominators, of course, but with subtracting mixed numbers, you might have to borrow. So for example, if I have, let's say I have 5 1/3 minus 4 5/6. So my first step would be to find common denominators. So I'm going to list my multiples. 3, 6, 9, 6, 12. And if you can figure out in your head that 6 is going to be the LCD, then by all means, just go ahead and put 6. But double check to make sure that is the LCD. So I'm going to bring down my whole numbers. And now I'm going to convert this 1/3 to be into 6. So I ask myself, 3 times what gives me 6? 3 times 2. So also multiply the top by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. 6 times what gives me 6? 6 times 1. So this one just stays the same. So this is when we have to borrow. If you look, we have 2, 6 minus 4, 6. You cannot take 5 from 2. So that's when we have to go and borrow. So we have to take 1 from the 5, and so it becomes a 4 now. That 1 that we borrowed, we need to add it onto this fraction to make it where we can actually subtract the fractions. So I'm adding 1 to this 2, 6, but I'm going to write it as adding 6, 6. I'm going to look at this. I've looked at this denominator, and I'm just rewriting it twice, basically, because 6, 6 is the same as 1. So we're adding 1 onto this 2, 6. So I'm going to come over here. And so now we have 4. 2 plus 6 is 8. So now we have 4 8, 6 minus 4 5, 6. So all we did is made our fraction improper by borrowing 1 from the 5. So now we can subtract. 4 minus 4 equals 0. And then 8 minus 5 is 3, 6. This can be simplified into 1/2. So that's what I mean when I say we are going to borrow. Oops. Let me just back. Next, we're going to look at multiplying. So when we multiply fractions, all we have to do, if we just have two fractions, so if I have 1/2 times 2/3, and they're not mixed numbers, they're just fractions, I just multiply straight across. That's all you do for multiplying fractions. So 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 3 is 6, and that can be simplified into 1/2. But if we have two mixed numbers, so if we have 3.5 times 2 1/3, we cannot just do 2 times 3 and then 1/2 times 1/3. With multiplying mixed numbers, you have to go around the world and change them into improper fractions. So that's when we do 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7, keep your original denominator. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is also 7, keep your original denominator. And then you can multiply straight across. So 7 times 7 is 49, 2 times 3 is 6. And then we would change that into a mixed number. So we have to change it back into a mixed number, and you can do that through long division. 6 goes into 40, 6 goes into 49, and you will go through all your long division process. Next, we're going to look at dividing fractions. So this was multiplying. Next is dividing. So when we divide fractions, we need to remember KFC. So I'm going to show you with two fractions. If I have 1/3 divided by 1/6, my steps for our KFC, which are keep, flip, change. And this is only for dividing fractions. You do not do this with multiplying. So dividing fractions, I'm going to keep the first one, flip the second one, so that becomes 6/1, and change the sign from division to multiplication. So now I can multiply straight across. 1 times 6 is 6, 3 times 1 is 3. So to change this back into a whole number or a mixed number, I ask myself, how many times will 3 go into 6? It goes in twice. Is there anything left over? No. So 2 would be my answer. If you have, let's see. If you have 1/2 divided by a whole number, all you need to do before you KFC is change this whole number into a fraction by putting it over 1. Then I can keep, flip, change, multiply straight across, and get 1/6. So that's actually how you solve each of the problems. On the next video, we're going to look at when do I subtract, when do I add, when do I multiply, and when do I divide? Because there's specific words and situations within word problems that tell you if you're going to add, subtract, multiply, or divide, or maybe add first and then subtract second if it's a two-step problem. Okay, thank you guys for listening. Please keep working hard. We are at the home stretch.